Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a video on my Diablo Immortal interview on day 2 of BlizzCon 2018 with Adham and Dan Elggren. I'll be giving my director's commentary throughout this video to express my thoughts and opinions on what's going on. Now before we dive in, a quick note on my interview style. It has changed quite a bit over the years, and I've arrived at a place where in interviews I try to be warm and friendly and cordial because I want my interviewees to feel relaxed, to not feel like they are on the defensive, because I want them to feel like they can open up, express more genuine and honest feelings and thoughts. So you'll see lots of me smiling, laughing, nodding along, because even when I hear something that I maybe don't agree with or I'm not particularly happy about, my objective in an interview is to get information, not to start an argument, so I try to remain amicable. Let's roll tape.
Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and joining me today we have
Adham. I'm the executive producer of Incubation at Blizzard Entertainment.
Dan Elggren, production director of Diablo Immortal and Incubation.
Now, do you want to tell us a little bit about your history with Blizzard?
Yeah, so I'm one of the 3 original co-founders. I met Mike and Frank back in college, and in 1991 managed to convince them to leave their jobs at Western Digital and Rockwell to start this crazy company, which back then was called Silicon and Synapse. We changed our name to Blizzard Entertainment a few years later after we realized Silicon and Synapse might possibly be the worst name ever for a company. No one knew what it meant or could spell it. And so, but here we are almost 3 decades later. It's crazy to see what's happened, but having a great time and making games.
Now, I felt it was particularly important for Adham to explain his position at Blizzard. First off, I think it's always important to understand who an answer is coming from. Context is always critical. You can't look at an answer received from the president and CEO of a company the same way as an answer coming from a concept artist. And in this case, I felt it was important for everyone to understand who Adham is, how important he was in forming Blizzard Entertainment and its core values. And as you'll see in this interview, it seems that Adham strongly believes in Blizzard's mobile efforts. Now, how you interpret that is up to you. You can feel reassured that someone who helped shape Blizzard in its infancy and throughout a good chunk of its life is backing this. Or you can feel scared that this is being endorsed at the highest levels within Blizzard, that this isn't just some small side project that some mid-level developer put forth and got approved despite some skepticism from up high.
Now, unless I'm mistaken, you took a little break?
I did. So I ran the company for the first 13 years as president and then later as chairman and vice president of game design. And the last few years before I took a break, I was running the company and at the same time game directing World of Warcraft. So we didn't call it game direction back then. That term didn't exist. We called it lead game designer. And so it turns out those 2 things are quite a lot of work. I was working 6 and 7 day work weeks for years at a time and loving it, but I needed to take a break and recharge myself. So right before World of Warcraft came out, I took a break and I left to start a quantitative hedge fund, which I realize sounds like something completely different, but it was really just another big fun video game using computer artificial intelligence to trade the stock markets. And about a year or 2 into that, I realized I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. I missed gaming. I was recharged and refreshed, and it was really just a matter of when I was going to return to gaming. I was committed to this new path, and it was kind of a nice, healthy quality of life, work-life balance. But a few years ago, I decided after around 10 years of running that fund to wind things down. We had a good run, and Mike was one of the investors, Mike Morheim, and he said, why don't you come back? You know, we could use your superpower to help get some new things started. And it's pretty crazy, but in the last 2 years now, about 2.5 years, we have now started more new projects, and we have more new games in development within incubation and all across Blizzard than we've ever had in our 3-decade history. So our future is quite bright. We just can't talk about all of it just yet, but there's some amazing things coming.
I don't suppose you can hint particularly at any one franchise or anything like that.
I'll reiterate what we said in the blog post, and you'll know what I'm saying probably. So a few weeks ago, we were pretty sure about what the community was hoping to see here at BlizzCon, and we knew that that wasn't what we were going to show them. So we released a message, and it basically said Diablo is a tentpole franchise for Blizzard, and it always will be. We have multiple teams working on multiple Diablo projects, but stay tuned. And so I'll reiterate that again today. Even after announcing Diablo 3 Switch and Diablo Immortal, we still have multiple Diablo teams working on multiple unannounced Diablo projects. So you can read into that what you want.
All right. And your history with Blizzard?
So I'm actually coming up on 7 years. I mean, I don't have the decades of time with Blizzard as Alan does, but yeah, I've been with Blizzard for 7 years and enjoyed it and loved every minute of it. You know, it's amazing being around just a family of passionate gamers. And so I've been working with Alan on the incubation teams for about 1.5 years now. So working with all those teams, it's been a blast.
Has that been on different projects? Has it always been under one franchise? Or is that stuff you can't discuss?
We have multiple teams working on multiple projects.
Right.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, I think we can give a little detail.
You see, what happens here is that Dan repeats the phrase, multiple teams, multiple projects, and honestly, I lost track of how many times different Blizzard employees throughout BlizzCon have repeated this exact phrase, be it on camera or off camera. This has clearly been the phrase, the one phrase that has been drilled into everyone as the one phrase they are allowed to speak on about other Diablo projects at BlizzCon. This is Blizzard's PR team hard at work, controlling what message gets out. And you're going to see Alan Adham here, who is in a position of higher authority, give a bit more detail than just that phrase. Now, going into this interview, I was expecting to be interviewing Wyatt Cheng. So when I arrived at the interview and saw that I'd have the opportunity to in fact interview Alan Adham, I was caught off guard. I had Wyatt questions prepared, and I basically had to throw out most of those questions to make room for new questions now, better suited for someone who can speak at a higher level of authority.
You know, we are working on many different things across many different platforms, across all of our IPs. Mobile is a thing for us going forward. Large parts of the world, mobile devices are their primary, and in many cases their only gaming device. That is in addition to our desktop business. So when we think about PC and console, we are still diehard PC and console fans. And so these new mobile endeavors, they are in addition to our traditional business. We are not abandoning that. We have many new things coming in PC and console, including new IP development and reimagined games using the IPs that people know and love. IP being
intellectual property.
That's right. So I caught myself there using industry terminology. I hope everyone knows what that means. But then we also were excited to bring our game franchises to reimagine how they might look on mobile devices. And Hearthstone was among the first. More recently, in fact, just yesterday, you see Diablo Immortal. You can expect to see more of those, but hopefully those are additive and help bring and broaden our community to a new audience.
So expanding upon that, I think elephant in the room, there was a certain reaction from the public about the reveal, and I feel some of it comes from a place of concern, and I think you were touching upon right there some reassurance. Is there anything further you're able to say to PC Diablo fans as some form of reassurance, even if it's just reiterating what you just said earlier?
I'll say it in another way. So we have not forgotten our PC and our console audience with the Diablo franchise. I think Brandy said it a few months ago, our community manager, the forges continue to burn hot. I think in a blog post we worded it as good things come to those who wait and evil things sometimes take a little longer. So you can rest assured we love Diablo as much as you do. Your passion for that franchise, even though it comes out in interesting ways sometimes, is what drives us. It's what motivates us, and we continue to work incredibly hard.
And we do listen to our fans. We hold our fans very close. We care deeply, about our fans, and want to make sure that they get those amazing products and that they're quality products. And it holds true with Diablo Immortal. We want to make a strong game on the mobile platform, an authentic Diablo experience.
Authentic Diablo experience. This was another term being thrown around a lot this BlizzCon. That and synonyms, true Diablo experience, genuine Diablo experience, authentic Diablo experience, all this was repeated by different people multiple times throughout the convention, again, on and off camera. I feel like Blizzard went into this BlizzCon expecting the Diablo Immortal announcement to be met with skepticism. And their plan, in my opinion, was to get everyone on board by showing just how passionate everyone working on the project was. And to really sell the idea that, yes, this is a full Diablo game. This isn't just some crappy little project. This is a full Diablo game on mobile. In other words, it seems that Blizzard's messaging going into BlizzCon was to address Diablo fans and say, don't worry, guys. This isn't just some kind of Chinese knockoff Diablo clone that we're offloading onto another company that we don't really care about at all. We genuinely care about this product, and we genuinely believe it will be a good product. Unfortunately, while that is a great plan to deal with skepticism, it was not the right plan to deal with the anger and hostility that they somehow did not anticipate, and I'm not sure how they didn't. So their solution, their strategy about showing passion and insisting that this is an authentic Diablo just served to make people more upset, because it served to widen the divide between Blizzard and Diablo fans, furthering the evidence that Blizzard doesn't know what Diablo fans want. And you heard Alan Adham touch upon the core of the issue just before, where he said that there are large parts of the world where mobile devices are their primary and in many cases their only gaming device. Sure, that's very true. But for your audience at BlizzCon, this is irrelevant. For your Diablo fans hoping for good news for them, this is irrelevant. We have PCs. We've already picked our preferred gaming platform. So the core message here seems to be that this is not for existing Diablo players. And that's part of the negative fan reaction. That said, this is great news for Activision Blizzard shareholders, because it's telling them that the company is about to make a bunch more money by bringing in an entirely new audience. But that's not what die-hard fans want to hear.
So I remember I don't remember which BlizzCon it was, but I remember when you made your return, and I remember from then you mentioning you coming in with some projects, some ideas, the whole incubation thing. Was Diablo Immortal already something you were thinking about when you came back?
Now, I asked this question because I wanted to know how recent of an idea Diablo Immortal was. Because in a separate interview, Wyatt Chang let slip that they'd been working on the game for only a few months, whereas I had the impression that at least the idea for the project had been brought in by Alan Adham when he returned to Blizzard, however many years ago. 2016. It was 2016.
Yeah, so this interesting shift has happened at Blizzard over the last few years, and really across the world. And so if you go back a few years ago, Blizzard was comprised almost entirely of PC and console gamers. And then over the last few years, many of us, myself included, find ourselves spending more and more time playing mobile games. Now, that's not to the exclusion of PC and console, and not everybody is there, but there are a large contingent now that do like mobile games. And so that has been something we've been talking about for a few years now. The success of Hearthstone, of course, on that device, and seeing how that opens that game up to a whole new audience is something that we're taking inspiration from, and that is something we talk a lot about and we think a lot about in incubation. So we've got some pretty novel ideas Diablo Immortal is one of them, and there'll be more to come.
What has been the most, exciting part about Diablo Immortal throughout the whole process? What has you most passionate or excited about it?
Now, this is a question I try to ask in every interview to give people a chance to speak on what they probably most want to speak about.
For me, it's, one, seeing people play it, and really sort of get the game, and sort of it feels like Diablo is it's like this is what I would expect a Diablo experience, but now it's on a mobile device. And so seeing that so that people sort of really get it, for that first time feels really good. I had my son here last night, and he was playing it, and he just, the whole way home last night, he talked nonstop about Diablo Immortal, and then he started going into the history and sort of the gameplay, and it's just, seeing that passion and excitement about Diablo Immortal is what gets me sort of, really going about what this game can really be.
Me too. I mean, the idea that you'll be able to have a true Diablo experience in your pocket, walk around and play that everywhere with everybody, that's pretty exciting. The sneak peek we're showing on the floor is a light version of that, but it's in the plan that when that product, that game is released, the zones will be big, the inventory, the loot mechanics, level progression, skill systems, they will be very authentically Diablo. And for just about everybody who holds it in their hand and plays it, it feels amazing. The control is tight, even on this new device, and it's beautiful to behold. The pixel density on phones is so high that the graphics look so sharp and crisp. It's beautiful. So I'm excited to be able to walk around and kind of play Diablo anytime, anywhere.
Now, one thing that was pretty clear to me is that those working on Diablo Immortal were genuinely passionate and excited about it. Or at least those who were talking about it at BlizzCon were. This doesn't seem like a project that they're just phoning in. This didn't seem like just a paycheck to them. This didn't seem like something they were embarrassed about. On the contrary, they seemed proud of what they had accomplished on the platform and were looking forward to sharing it with the world.
Do we know if there will be any option for, I know some people were asking, can we attach external controllers in any way? Is that at all being considered?
It's something we're thinking about. We haven't implemented that yet, but it's certainly on the table.
Okay. There's some rumor or story being tossed around that the game is very similar to another game that NetEase already released. Do you care to comment at all on that? I haven't personally, I don't know about the game, but people are,
Yeah, you hit it well.
For sure, I'll respond to that. So, no, there's no truth. I saw that story last night too, so there's no truth to that story. This is a brand new game being built from the bottom up. Now, that being said, part of the reason that Blizzard partnered with NetEase is that, on the one hand, they've been our joint venture partner in China for over a decade now. And they also, in China, are among the best mobile game developers, with many action RPGs in the top selling list. So we know that they have a great expertise in this arena. China is the largest mobile market in the world, but we wanted to make sure that by partnering with them, we could make a mobile game that could transcend any one region. The Diablo IP is beloved in many parts of the world, and so we have an opportunity here to do something special. Now, some of the game mechanics that you'll see, they do take inspiration from some of the NetEase products that have come before, but that control mechanic in the East, the virtual joystick and the kind of splayed buttons on the right side that let you use skills, that's common not just in NetEase projects, but in many projects in Asia. And it actually, once you get used to it, it feels amazing. And so we kind of have an expression at Blizzard we teach our designers. We say, better is better, which is shorthand for don't change things just to change them. If you change them and it's worse, it's different but still worse. So if doing something the same as it's been done is the best, well then better is better. And this is an example of that. It feels very natural to anybody who's familiar with that. but it also is the right way to do this. So when you see some kind of overlap with how not just NetEase titles, but all of the Asian titles, it's because that's evolved to what the mobile market, a large majority of the mobile market around the world, feels like is the best control mechanic. But it is a brand new game being built from the ground up.
I just want to reiterate that it is being built from the ground up. All the mechanics. Sure, we're taking inspiration where appropriate, but we're building this up for a mobile platform from the ground. So it's taking into everything we want for the Diablo and then the essence of Diablo to be there, as well as taking the inspiration where appropriate. And we're gamers. We play lots of games, and we want to bring that passion and those great mechanics over.
Now I know you haven't said anything about monetization, probably can't speak much to that, but I know a big part of the stigma of mobile games is the whole pay to win. Is there any form of reassurance you can give that you're aware of those concerns?
Sure.
You can talk to them?
Yeah, I can speak to the higher level point. So we have ideas about how we're gonna the business model around this game, but we haven't announced anything yet, and not ready yet to talk about it. But I will speak at the higher level. For close to 3 decades now, Blizzard has made games, and you've kind of seen our values front and center in the games that we make and how we have evolved our business models over time. So from the early days of box products to World of Warcraft with a subscription model, and more recently we have Heroes of the Storm and Hearthstone as free-to-play games. And I hope that our players can see that across all those titles, we have always put front and center our players and our desire to make sure that we honor them, both in delivering overwhelming value for the dollars that they spend, and in making sure that all our games are of exceptional quality. And those are values that we intend to maintain with this game and everything we do going forward. And so I would say look to our past if you want to understand how we think about monetization in the future.
Now, historically, your partnership with NetEase, was that mostly for them to bring your games to China? Okay, so is this the first time that they're really putting more upfront development into...
It is. It's our first joint development with NetEase. Now, we've relied on them in the past to help guide us on best practices in China. Mm-hmm. There's differences between the kinds of content you can put into China, and they're subtle sometimes, and it's helpful to have a joint venture partner there. But this is the first time that we've done a full-fledged joint development with them.
Can you speak at all to the resource allocation, I guess, between Blizzard and NetEase on this with respect to be it manpower or I don't know how much you can get into that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best way to look at it is it's a co-developed project. We have developers on both sides that are working hand in hand. We move them daily to sort of strategize and work through different feature sets. We have them out here, we go out there. So there's definitely, we feel like one team. And we communicate that on a regular basis that we are one team that works together to pull this all together.
And speaking, I guess, size-wise, I know that Hearthstone, for instance, was developed by initially a very small team, is my understanding. And then, Diablo 3 was a massive team. My understanding currently there's a lot more granular divisions between the different teams working on different things. Size-wise, are you able to give any indication how big the Immortal team is?
We're not releasing the exact numbers, but it's a pretty sizable team. If you think about what it takes to make a open world MMO scale game, even on mobile, that's a fairly sizable team. And then if you look at the content that you've seen so far, you'll notice that some of it harkens to Diablo 2, some of it to Diablo 3, but that it's rebuilt all new from the ground up. So it's a very content-rich game, and that requires a pretty sizable team.
Ultimately, we'll put the right resources on the project to make the right game. And that'll fluctuate over time as those resources are needed to make that content.
As we wrap up, is there any final message you'd like to get out, be it about the game, be it about the franchise, anything?
I just can't wait for everybody to get it in their hands and play it. I think playing is believing. We're super proud of it. We know where it's headed, and one day we think everybody will be able to have Diablo in their hands and play it in a new and interesting way that is awfully compelling.
So that was my interview. As a reminder, this took place on the morning of day 2 at BlizzCon, so Blizzard had some time to take in the fan response on day 1 and change their messaging or prepare some other statements for day 2 if they wanted to. And my overall takeaways from this interview and in general is that Blizzard wanted to reassure fans that this will be a good game. The problem is, for some fans, the fear is that this will be a good game that's going to make a crazy amount of money for Blizzard, and that the Diablo franchise will then forever be shifted to mobile. Because regardless of their reassurances, without any concrete PC plans, any PC Diablo project could be cancelled at some point if the upper level corporate people decide, hey, look at all this crazy money mobile's making. Why are we even bothering to invest internal money on anything else? Because I'm positive that there are people at Blizzard that are absolutely passionate about PC Diablo. So the concern has nothing to do with individual developers and their respective passions and interests. The concern is, how much will the almighty dollar win out at the end of the day as the years go on, as Activision's influence becomes stronger and stronger. Another takeaway I had was that they did not just offload this project onto NetEase. They have been allocating a good amount of personnel, a good amount of resources to this project. And for a lot of people, that's bad news, because that means, oh, well, all those people could have been working on a PC Diablo game. It's funny, because people are upset regardless of where we land on that. If Blizzard is allocating a lot of resources, people are upset because those resources could have been put elsewhere. If they're not allocating any resources, then people are upset that Blizzard doesn't care about Diablo and they offloaded the project. One thing to bear in mind throughout all of this is that Diablo, the franchise itself, was not created by Blizzard. Blizzard contracted Condor Games and then bought Condor Games and renamed Condor Games to Blizzard North to make Diablo. So this isn't the first time Blizzard has taken an external company to help produce something. Now, if you have any specific concerns about NetEase as a company, those are absolutely valid. I'm just saying that in general, the idea of Blizzard bringing in an external company isn't in and of itself a bad idea. We wouldn't have Diablo at all if they had never done that. Now, I think ultimately the biggest problem here is that Blizzard is asking us, the PC Diablo fanbase, and to an extent the console fanbase as well, to have faith. But the problem is that faith is a resource like mana. It can be depleted and replenished. When faith is high, we're willing to accept reassuring words. But the collective faith resource pool of the Diablo community is probably at an all-time low right now, after a long period of gradual decline. There just isn't enough resource left for Blizzard to use the words of reassurance skill. They can't keep using faith spenders. They have to use a faith generator right now. Diablo 4 teaser video would have been something that would have generated a good amount of faith. Almost anything concrete for PC fans would have generated some faith. But I'm afraid that Activision Blizzard is in a position where it's so beholden to its shareholders that the devs simply won't be able to give anything concrete. Because anything they say will have short and long-term impacts on stock prices. I'm sure that there are developers at Blizzard working on a PC Diablo project that are screaming inside, wishing that they can share stuff with us, but they can't. So that's where we are today, waiting for Blizzard's response. Again, as of this recording, we haven't gotten it yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually gone live by the time this video goes live, but if that is the case, I'll have an update probably in my community section on the YouTube channel first, before I have a full-on video about it. And in case you haven't seen my full thoughts on what happened this BlizzCon with Diablo Immortal, I have a full video on that right here. And that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch and Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider becoming a Royal Raider on Patreon, where your support is immensely appreciated. We've got a variety of backer rewards, including behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content.